Hey friend, for hundreds of thousands of years, the rules of human existence were brutally simple. Move or die. Our ancestors were guests on a vast, unpredictable landscape. They were small bands of ghosts, wandering through forests and plains, their lives dictated by the migration of herds and the changing of seasons. There was no such thing as a permanent home. There was no concept of mine. There was only the endless cycle of the hunt and the constant gnawing question, will there be food tomorrow? Then, roughly 12,000 years ago, the wanderers stopped. They bent to the earth and pushed a single seed into the soil. In that one moment, they triggered a revolution that would build empires, invent gods, and ultimately trap the human species in a cycle of labor we have never escaped. The transition began in a world of ice and shadow. As the last ice age finally retreated, a region we now call the Fertile Crescent became an oasis of wild grains and abundant water. But nature is rarely kind for long. Around 10,800 BCE, a sudden, brutal mini ice age known as the Younger Dryas gripped the planet. The forests shrank, the animals vanished. In places like Abu Huraira in modern-day Syria, humans faced a terrifying choice: return to the old ways of wandering through a dying landscape or force the earth to provide. Archaeologists believe the breakthrough was born from equal parts observation and desperation. Someone, perhaps a woman gathering wild rye, noticed that where seeds fell in the wet soil, new life erupted weeks later. They began to select for mutations. In the wild, wheat and barley shatter, dropping their seeds to the wind the moment they are ripe. They are impossible to harvest in bulk. But humans sought out the freaks of nature, the rare stalks that held onto their grain. By planting these mutated seeds, we didn't just grow food, we engineered a new world. But this new world had a hidden price, and the bones of the first farmers tell a much darker tale than the history books. The Neolithic Revolution is often sold as a story of progress, but skeletal remains show a shocking decline in human health. As we traded a diverse diet of wild game and plants for a monoculture of wheat and maize, our bodies shrank. In Europe, average heights plummeted from 178 centimeters down to 165 for men. The first farmers were riddled with anemia from iron-poor diets. Their teeth rotted from the sticky sugars in their cereal-heavy diet. Their spines were deformed by the grueling, back-breaking labor of the fields. The closer we settled together, the more the world became a breeding ground for invisible killers. By domesticating cows, pigs, and sheep, we invited their pathogens into our homes. Smallpox, measles, and influenza jumped the species barrier, thriving in the crowded, unsanitary conditions of the first permanent villages. We were no longer free. We were anchored to the soil, tethered to our livestock, and increasingly enslaved by our own success. As the population exploded, a new kind of power emerged. In the old world, no one could own the land. In the new world, storage became survival. Whoever controlled the granaries controlled life itself. The first writing ever discovered wasn't created to record poems or hymns to the gods. It was created to track debt. The cuneiform tablets of Mesopotamia were the tools of the first accountants, used to record exactly how many measures of barley a farmer owed to the temple or the local strongman. Private property was born, and with it, the first social classes. Society split into the thinkers who managed the surplus and the workers who produced it. Kings or lugals rose to power, promising protection in exchange for a share of the harvest. We built walls to keep enemies out, and in doing so, we built the first prisons. The egalitarian bands of the nomadic era were gone forever, replaced by a hierarchy that has persisted for 5,000 years. Agriculture was the architect of the modern world. It gave us cities, science, and the technology to reach the stars. But it also gave us systemic inequality, global pandemics, and a relentless pressure on the planet's resources. We are the descendants of that great, desperate experiment. We stepped out of the wilderness and into the fields, believing we were mastering nature, only to realize that the earth had mastered us. We have been following the rhythm of the harvest ever since, forever bound to the soil by a single grain of wheat.